Welcome to the latest edition of Beyond the Arc. I'm John Gonzalez alongside our NBA insider, Bill Reiter, who informed me that he's wearing a jacket so that his head doesn't, it's just not a floating head in his background.
It's also because, I'm fancy. I'm fancy, John. I'm in New York, and so I'm getting a little fancier out here out east for the week.
You're classing up our show. I appreciate it. The viewers appreciate it. Before we get into this, right before we went up on air, it looked like the Atlanta Hawks have dismissed general manager Landry Fields. Bill, this is not surprising to me. We don't have to get into it too much today. Maybe we'll get into it tomorrow. But I was asked about HQ, what the Hawks should do from here. And I was like, shoulder shrug emoji. I really don't know. I mean, I thought that they should have moved on from Trae Young last year and kept DeJounte around, although I don't know how much of a market there is for Trae Young. And I guess this is equaled the end of Landry Fields.
I have written a lot about the Hawks over the last few years and know people in the organization, and they are in the exact same spot to a degree as the Phoenix Suns. They can make whatever changes they want, however long ownership runs this thing like their personal toy chest rather than a professional basketball team. You're not going to have the outcomes that you want. And I'm with you, like a legitimate president of basketball operations or general manager who was empowered, and Landry Fields was not. We don't have to get into all of it, but he was really a selection of the ownership when Travis Schlenk was forced out. Until you have somebody that comes in and has the power to tell ownership, sorry, no, we're going to do it our way, you're going to have these lackluster teams like the Hawks and like the Suns.
We'll see what direction they go, and maybe we'll get into it a little bit more in depth tomorrow. Today, though, we have so much to get into, Bill. We'll dive into all the game ones from this weekend, including the Clips and the Nugs overtime thriller. The Wolves got physical with the Lakers. Oklahoma City put an historic beating on the Grizz. I had post-game for that yesterday. That was really quite something. The Knicks' big fourth quarter comeback, and then the Bucks. Bill, for the Bucks, I just wrote oof in all caps, so we'll discuss that as well, and then we'll do Team of the Night. But first, we'll start in the Western Conference with the 2-7 matchup, the Rockets and the Warriors. The Rockets went into this as the 2 seed, Bill, but somehow the underdogs in this. And we saw a little bit yesterday, kind of what we suspected, that it might be difficult for the Rockets to score. This was a defensive game on both ends of the floor. Warriors end up winning at 95-85. Both teams under 100 here, Bill. Season low points for Houston. Now the Warriors are 25-7 with Jimmy Butler. Warriors are up 1-0 in this series, but this was a little bit of a rock fight outside of Steph Curry.
Yeah, this is everything we talked about, or at least I thought this series was going to be. I know the Rockets, you're part of that. Are you still in that Rockets fan club? You had the Warriors too. They're too young. They're not experienced enough. They don't know who to turn to for scoring. They're amazing defensively, but as we've heard a lot on the broadcast and we've talked about, the Warriors are the best defensive team since Jimmy Butler got put into the lineup when he became a Warrior on February 8th. And you noted, they've got this Steph Curry guy who does acrobatic backflip three-point shots when necessary late in games. And so I love Houston. I love what they're building. The Rockets are not the best team in this series, and I think it showed last night.
Yeah, I do love the Rockets, but I did pick the Warriors in 6 for all the reasons that you just outlined. I was worried about, we've seen it all season long. It's one thing during the regular season for the Rockets' entire identity, and, apologies to Nico Harrison here, to be about defense and defense winning championships and all of those things. But late in that game, Bill, after they scored 34 points, the Rockets did at the half, which was not surprisingly their lowest scoring half for the Rockets this season. But they ended up going on a big run in the second half and cutting it to 3. And then all of a sudden they looked around and went, who scores now? Well, on the other side, you've got Steph and Jimmy, and they knew exactly who to put the ball, whose hands to put the ball in. And then with the Rockets, it was like, okay, well, Alperen Şengün had a really good game, but is he really like your clutch scorer? Fred VanVleet, who is super streaky, he was cold last night, especially from distance. Jalen Green, also super streaky. He didn't have it going either. And it's like, you know what the Rockets are going to give you? They're going to give you a great effort rebounding. They're going to give you a great effort playing defense. And then they're going to look at each other, and it's going to be the Spider-Man meme of who's supposed to score right now.
Amen Thompson basically vanished on the offensive end. And I want to point that out. You brought up how good that Rockets team is in terms of the rebounding, the best rebounding team in the NBA. And they're particularly adept at offensive rebounding. John, that's part of the reason, despite not having a functional offense, they sort of crept up, not in, but you pointed this out the other day, toward the top 10 at offensive rating, because they get so many extra chances and opportunities because they're so good at offensive rebounding. I don't know if you saw this. They won the offensive rebounding battle yesterday, 22-6, and they still lost by double digits. And so it just reinforces your point that even when they have multiple extra opportunities to score, they can't do it because in the regular season, they didn't know or have the right people to turn to just yet. This is not the regular season. The playoffs feel different. There's a pressure factor. I know we're going to talk about the Pistons later, but that collapse from in the fourth quarter against the Knicks and underscored the same thing the Rockets are dealing with. When you're young, playoff basketball is different. And the problem for the Rockets is that's true in a vacuum. You're not playing the Warriors in a vacuum. You're playing a team that, as I said, is the best defense in the NBA going back to early February. So it all adds up to just a perfectly unfair matchup in the first round for a Rockets team that had a great regular season. But man, you out offensive rebound any team 22-6 and you lose by double digits. You've got problems executing, getting the ball in the rim.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things that we were looking for going into the series, like what the rebounding numbers would be. And if you're the Rockets, you feel good about that, and you're getting a lot of second chance points that way. But then the rest of your offense really ground to a halt. One of the other things that I was looking for, Bill, was how Steph Curry would be defended. We saw in the last game in the regular season when they played the Rockets that Amen Thompson really locked him up. He went 1 for 10. He had more turnovers in that game than points. And I thought, wow, I wonder if they can do that over the course of a series. Bill, they couldn't do it over the course of one game. Steph was amazing last night. He had 31 points.
They can't.
He had some ridiculous circus shots. At one point, he threw up a ball in the corner that he just hoisted. It was like almost like a catapult motion where he's falling out of bounds, and Jalen Green was defending him. And it was a rainbow arc, and it went through, and he was amazed, and he made this amazed face, and the Warriors bench just fell all over themselves. Jalen Green stopped, Bill, to look down at him like in amazement. That's how incredible Steph was, and that's how amazing that shot was.
There was a moment, I don't know if you caught this, where Jimmy Butler was on the bench, and Steph had one of these ridiculous, and they just caught him Butler going, just to see it up close, and this is the reason why, for me, and I think for a lot of people, the idea of discounting the Warriors as a favorite and a contender, and forget the Thunder, just maybe not putting them on the same level or above the Lakers, I always thought was silly because Steph is still Steph. Jimmy Butler was really great in the game, and he had a great performance. He had a couple of really big buckets at the end. I think Steph had like a scoop to the hoop, and he missed, and Jimmy put it back. But Jimmy was pretty quiet for a big stretch of the early part and mid part of the fourth quarter. They didn't even have to activate playoff Jimmy in the fourth quarter because Steph was doing his thing. And it hit me, if you're any of these teams, the Rockets included, and I think it'll be other teams going forward, it's just, you have such a tough task because the Warriors are going to stop you defensively. They're amazing on that side of the ball. Finally, Steve Kerr has shored up his rotation and gone with fewer than the 131 people that he thought was going to work in December. And again, you've got Steph doing, as you said, highlight reel again, in really important moments as the Rockets were making a push. And you've got Jimmy Butler sitting there. If and when you need him, he can activate playoff Jimmy mode. So this is whatever happened in the regular season before Butler came on board. Whatever happened with Amen Thompson against Steph in one regular season game. The Warriors, and this Warriors in particular, are a different animal now that we're in playoff basketball time.
Yeah, they called it out on the broadcast about how stark the contrast was between the two teams closing the game, where you had Jimmy and they didn't have to activate playoff Jimmy until it really mattered, and Steph, as opposed to on the other side, the Rockets really, like in crunch time, it's been a problem all season long. Last thing on this that I wanted to run past you, just because you brought up Steve Kerr finally shortening his rotations and not playing 11 and 12 guys. Once again, Jonathan Kuminga not in the rotation in a game where like the Warriors were up big for a while. And I thought, okay, maybe if this continues, maybe Jonathan Kuminga will get some run. Bill, he's going to be a restricted free agent this offseason. And don't forget that he had some big games against the Rockets during the regular season. And I thought if he's going to get into a series, he didn't play in the final 2 games of the regular season. They kind of aced him out of the rotation. But this really feels like, I don't know, this might be a Jonathan Kuminga, thanks for your service, off you go to some other team this offseason.
I think his new role on this team for the rest of the playoffs is probably DNP. I mean, I think that is clearly the decision that Steve Kerr has made. And if you want to sort of get into the weeds on this, I think it is clearly the right call now because it's working. And I feel bad for Kuminga because I don't think we talk about player development and we always talk about it for teams that successfully do it. Let's call the Warriors out for a lack of success in doing that. Now, Steph Curry makes up for a multitude of sins, just like LeBron has over the years. So they haven't done Kuminga any favors in the way that they've managed him over the years. And that problem's coming home to roost now. And I feel he needs to go somewhere else and find a place that will let him play and let him grow.
For as much heat as Steve Kerr has taken, I think he's absolutely right that, yes, it's working right now. And the spacing with Draymond and Jimmy gets super wonky when you have Kuminga out there, too, and he's not spacing the floor enough. So we'll see what happens as that series continues. All right, we're going to take a quick break. And then on the other side, we got to get into Nuggets and Clippers playing an overtime classic. And then the Lakers ended up losing to the Wolves, Bill. And afterwards, they didn't sound great about the physicality in that series. We'll hear from we'll hear from JJ and LeBron. On the other side, don't go anywhere. This is Beyond the Arc on CBS Sports Network.
It's not to say our guys weren't ready to withstand like a playoff level basketball game. We were mentally ready. I thought our spirit was right. I thought even when they made runs, our huddles were great. The communication was great. I'm not sure physically we were ready, if that makes sense. And really, when they started playing with a lot of thrust and physicality, we just didn't respond immediately to that. And then that stretch from the start of the second through 4 or 5 minutes to go in the third, we lost that stretch by 34. So that's a blowout.
When you play in a Minnesota team, they're gonna be physical. That's what they bring to the table. Maybe it took us one playoff game to now get a feel for it and know what the type of intensity, the type of physicality that's going to be brought to the game. But that's just the way they play. So we should be more than prepared for that on Tuesday night.
All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. You heard LeBron and JJ there. The Wolves end up winning game one, Bill, by 22. And coming into the series, you and I and everybody else were like, hey, the size differential, especially in the front court, is going to be interesting because the Lakers don't really have a center proper. They've got Jackson Hayes, and they've decided to go kind of small ball with DFS and LeBron. And I don't know that always size necessarily equals physicality, but you heard them, these two guys, right after game one, JJ Redick, the head coach, and LeBron James, their main player, say, we weren't really very physical, and they were. And I thought that was kind of startling, Bill.
Yeah, startling as an admission of one of the key chess moves we were going to see throughout the course of the series. And by the way, John, he's right. I mean, they were physically dominated over the course. There were other things that went on, though. I didn't think the Lakers' offense moved particularly well. They didn't move the ball very well. They settled on a bunch of isolation. There was a moment, because you're more of a J.J. Redick guy than I am. And I'm J.J. Redick agnostic. Jury's out for me, where I think it was George Sedano doing the broadcast, asked him a question about what was going on, and J.J. basically said, the scheme is great. We're just not fit. J.J. was basically saying, my game plan was amazing, but we're getting out-hustled. Which wasn't true. I thought on a lot of levels, I thought the Timberwolves outclassed. Outside of Luka Doncic, on almost every level, I thought Minnesota outclassed the Lakers. And certainly the physicality is a really big problem because Anthony Edwards was good, but he wasn't amazing. It was the Naz Reid game, and Jaden McDaniels was really great. If you're the Lakers, there's a lot to worry about because this team being bigger and taller and longer and stronger and more physical, as J.J. Redick said, than the Lakers is real. That isn't going away. And there were other problems that I thought played out throughout the course of the game, too.
Yeah, Naz and Jaden McDaniels combined for 48 points, and they were just playing bully ball on that. Julius Randle had a weird Julius Randle game where he was oddly not just like a ball hog and distributed a little bit. And you're right, for them to win this game, Bill, by 22 in Los Angeles, where Ant was pretty good. I mean, he was just under a triple-double, 22, 8, and 9, but it wasn't like an extraordinary Ant game. That's alarm bells all over the place for me if I'm the Lakers and J.J. Redick, because scheme aside, I don't know how you scheme for this if you don't have the personnel. I mean, if you don't have any real size at the center position in the paint, and your only option that you've landed on so far is we're going to throw Dorian Finney-Smith and LeBron into that center position and just hope for the best, how do you combat that?
I mean, look, for me, and I've said this, and I could be wrong, and it's a fool's errand. It is a fool's errand to take any single game, let alone the first game of the playoffs, any single game of the postseason, and draw conclusions. I mean, these things are marathons, and we've only seen a couple first steps. That said, I don't think the Lakers are that good. I think that they're capable of winning. I think they have an amazing ceiling. I think they have two superstars who clearly have the ability and a history of putting teams on their backs. But and I've said this, we've talked about this. They've been mediocre offensively since the trade deadline, since Luka came on board. They've been mediocre defensively since Luka came on board, and Luka and LeBron have been great. And another thing that's happened, and so maybe we'll regress to the mean here, is that Austin Reeves has been really, really good. He's been a star player level since Doncic came on board. And Austin Reeves was not good in that game. And you said Julius Randle did a lot of non-Julius Randle things, including he hit some big shots when he was open, when there were some momentum swings possible. So I don't know that it's realistic to expect Austin Reeves to keep being bad. And I'm sorry, Julius Randle will keep being good, because that's not what he's really done in the playoffs. So that's a thing that can shift too. But that's a really nice start for the Timberwolves. And as you noted, and as is I think important, Anthony Edwards has not had the Anthony Edwards game yet, and those are in there too.
Yeah, it is a nice start for the Wolves. We should mention that the Lakers are one of just two teams, along with the Rockets, to lose to the lower seed in Game 1 over the weekend. And the Wolves, Bill, they've been paying attention to this. I don't know if you caught the post-game press conference where Ant was sitting there and he was like, oh, nobody thinks that we can do it. It was kind of like that bulletin board material, only we believe in us. But I think in this instance, even though that tends to be a sports cliche, I think he actually is right. I took the Lakers in 7. I looked all around at
I took the Wolves.
You took the Wolves. You were one of the few teams, or one of the few people to take the Wolves in this series. I mean, looking around at like the national pundits, of which we are two, you were one of the lone people to believe in the Wolves.
I'm a lone wolf.
You're a lone wolf. Nicely done.
Pretty good about it.
Right on the tee.
Look, it's a long series too. I mean, you win. The Lakers come back and win. Here's the thing: the Lakers win the next game, everything's fine.
Yeah.
There's no must-win game in Game 2, but I mean.
All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. Just some minor technical difficulties to iron out there. Bill was in the middle of making a really salient, brilliant point about the Wolves. Put a button on the Lakers-Wolves for us, Bill.
By the way, a lot of folks think that the officials are are sort of in the bag for the Lakers. Also, if you criticize the Lakers on national TV, they have a magic button. Jeannie Buss pushes it in LA, and it just shuts down. It just shuts down the feed. Here's my thing on the Lakers. I think they're really good. I don't think that they're as elite as many of our colleagues at CBS Sports and across the country do. I think they have LeBron. I think they have Luka. I think that always gives you a chance. I think they're a more complete version with more star power than the Denver Nuggets. I think the Nuggets aren't very good, and they're the best player on earth. And I think the Lakers are fine, and they have two outstanding players. But I think it makes them vulnerable to nights like we saw against Minnesota.
That's a professional transition. Our next game that we got to get into is Nuggets and Clippers, who the Nuggets, Bill, ended up winning this game by 2 in overtime. They're up 1-0 in the series. It felt like the Clippers kind of handed this game away and probably should be kicking themselves, because I thought that they were the better team for the majority of this game. I thought Joker was fantastic, almost a triple-double. Jamal Murray was inefficient, but he got up 20 shots, and I'll take that all day long, like aggressive Jamal Murray. And then Russell Westbrook, Bill, this was like the quintessential Russell Westbrook game in that he giveth and he taketh away. He made a great play in overtime defensively, but then at the end of regulation, he just like kind of fumbled and had like a brain glitch, and like, the offense just completely stalled there. But somehow the Nuggets win this game. Bill, the last 4 games that the Nuggets and the Clippers have played, the Clippers have lost all 4 of those games, and they've had double-digit leads in all 4. And it's like, oh man, the Clippers can't stop being the Clippers.
You said it. I mean, they 100% they handed the game away. It's one of those games where the Clippers were clearly the better basketball team, except they lost the basketball game. And the Russ thing is really interesting because he had a brutal shooting night, but he did, John, give credit where it's due. He had some huge hustle, make a difference plays. And Jamal Murray was aggressive also late in the game. If memory serves, fourth quarter overtime, hit some shots. I don't think Jokic scored in overtime. But sometimes you watch these games and you have these swings, you have an outcome that doesn't, it felt like it went against, to quote soccer, the run of play, and the obvious thing slaps you in the face. The thing that I've been thinking about all weekend since that game is that the Nuggets still aren't that good of a basketball team. And Jokic by himself is better than several basketball teams that without having to go through him might be good enough to win multiple playoff series. That's a really good Clippers team. And Nikola Jokic, with a little bit of the help we discussed, was better than that entire team. He kept his team in it. He ran the offense. He calmed them down. He hit big shots. Just the gravity that he creates to create opportunities for other guys. And Christian Brown had a good night too. This is a tale of 2 very different approaches. One approach is a complete basketball team. The other approach is a complete basketball player who just puts his team on his back, and we saw that.
Yeah, Joker was awesome. He went for 29, 9 rebounds, 12 assists, 3 steals, a block. He was really good. The Clippers, I thought, as a team, were much better. There's 2 things that I wanted to flag here, though, on both ends. One, with the Nuggets, where you were mentioning how this isn't really a complete team. We have been castigating Michael Porter Jr. all season long. Bill, yes. 26 minutes, 3 points, 1 for 4 from the field. You had mentioned that, Russ had a weird Russ game. They had to go with Russ because Michael Porter Jr. was an absolute no-show in this. And for large chunks of the season, he was a no-show. I continue to be sort of dumbfounded by the fact that this guy has all of the physical tools and just absolutely no-shows in the first playoff game against the Clippers.
He got Kuminga. I mean, for the last 8.5 minutes of the fourth quarter, I think it was, and for all of overtime, he was just out. And look, MPJ makes a bunch of money, and he has a special place. Local reporters in Denver reported there's a special place in the heart of the Cronkies for MPJ because they share a connection to the University of Missouri. But he's also like, he's one of the few guys that can shoot from deep, and it was just what a gutsy move by David Adelman to just say, you know what, the owners want this, the books, what we're paying him says we should do this, the tactical reality that 3-point shooting is important matters. I'm not doing it, and it paid off. Credit to him.
David Adelman had said, Bill, towards the end of the regular season, I'm going to go with, outside non-Joker, Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon division. I'm going to ride the hot hand. And you can say that all you want in the regular season, but when you get into overtime, game 1 against the Clippers, who have been playing better than you, and you decide not to go with a guy who's been a starter for you for the last however many years and was a starter on a championship team just 2 years ago, yes, that is the amount of courage that takes, especially when you're in an interim position and you want to be hired full-time for the gig. If that goes the other way, people are going, well, why'd you mothball MPJ? That doesn't seem like a good idea. Now, on the other side, the other tactical decision I wanted to run past you, Ty Lue, who I think we're all in agreement is a very good head coach, got away from run. He said that he was asked about it afterwards by Law Murray from The Athletic, and I thought it was a really smart question. One, he was said, these rotations that you were running, it looked very similar to the regular season, and you didn't tighten it up. And he goes, yeah, and we're going to do it again, at least for another half coming up in game 2. We'll see if he does that tonight. But he got away from the Harden-Zubac pick and roll, and Bob Myers called it out on the broadcast. He's like, hey, that Harden-Zubac pick and roll is money in the bank every time they go to it. Why aren't they going to it more? I guess I'll ask you, Bill. You're super tight with Ty Lue. You guys hang out and do sleepovers. Why didn't you go to it more?
I don't know where that joke comes from. I'm like very net. I don't like her this way. Ty's great. I don't know. It was a very bizarre. And again, it was one of the reasons. The offense stagnated for the Clippers in large part because of what you're referencing, what Bob Myers kept bringing up. And it was one of the reasons that a Clippers team that was the better team and was in control of that game suddenly got tight. And the other thing is there's this narrative, and I think it's fair, that Harden is not a closer in some playoff games. I don't think that was true in this game. I thought he played really well, and I'd love to have the ball in his hands more. I mean, I don't know. I don't have an answer for you other than there is sometimes just the reality that you're under fire in a playoff game. And as a coach, it's okay to make that mistake in a game. It's not okay to make that mistake in the game 2. And it doesn't really matter what Ty Lue says in a post-game press conference. It does matter what adjustments he makes in a game 2 or game 3. If we're in the same position, he goes away from whatever's working.
Yeah, we'll see if he makes those adjustments tonight in game 2. Bill and I will be on CBS Sports HQ right after game 2 tonight, so come and join us for that one. Last Western Conference game, Bill. I had HQ post game for this one, and what a beating this was. Oklahoma City and the Grizzlies. I had Oklahoma City winning this in a sweep, but you and I discussed that the Grizzlies are not your typical 8 seed. They actually had a pretty good season despite the fact that they fired Taylor Jenkins, and they were the 2 seed as recently as late February and the 4 seed when they fired Taylor Jenkins. And we thought, okay, maybe they'll put up a fight in this. The Grizz have the full team and John Moran is healthy. And Bill, there was no fight at all in this game. The Oklahoma City ends up winning this by 51 points. It's the largest game 1 victory in NBA history. And the real killer, if you're the Grizz here, Bill, is that SGA didn't even have a big game. He only scored 15 points. That's his lowest output since October. You texted me that Oklahoma City might win this in 3.
Yeah, series. It's one of those things where I know we knew this, but to see how deep the Thunder are, right? Because SGA does get a lot of the headlines and a lot of the attention, John, because he's probably going to win MVP. He's certainly going to be one of the obviously top 2 guys. they're so good and they're so deep. Yeah, so it's OKC in 3. That's my new prediction. And we've talked about Memphis hasn't beaten a winning team, it feels like, since 2021. And they obviously have to play a winning team in the playoffs. That one game felt like they lost to a winning team 4 different times. I mean, it was such a loss that it was just, they lost and they lost again and they lost again. I thought they were going to win a game. And maybe I'm getting caught up in the sort of recency bias of just that beatdown, because we've not 51 points, but we've had playoff series. We've had final series where teams lose by 22 to go down 2-0 or 2-1 and turn series around. Bucks Suns comes to mind when Milwaukee flipped the script on that series. That's not happening here. I mean, that was such a humiliation. That was such just an announcement of intent to dominate Memphis. And we know Memphis is in turmoil. We know that they fired their coach. We know John Morant is well liked in that locker room, but is doing the finger guns and the hand grenade stuff. I thought it was important for Memphis, maybe not to win the game, just to have a good performance, to remind themselves they can play well against good teams. And they did the exact opposite.
I mean, that's really humiliating to lose by that much. I mean, yes, you just came out of the play-in, but you expect to have a better performance than that. Now, afterward, Ja, who was the only starter in double figures, he only scored 17 points, but he's the only guy who made it to double digits. Afterwards, he said, and this will shock you here, Bill, well, we're never going to play that bad again. I hope not. I mean, that was one of the worst playoff performances in recent memory. And that's one of those things, yeah, it's only one game and there's recency bias in the whole bit, but that's the kind of thing that can really linger, where you're going up against the number 1 team in the NBA with an incredible defense and the best point differential in NBA history, and they just absolutely throttled you. And it wasn't close at any point. And I would, if I were a professional athlete or just a human being, start to doubt myself a little bit. Something else that also I wanted to flag from that game, during the game, did you catch this, that they mic'd up Jaren Jackson Jr. for that game? Can you imagine?
God. Yes.
They the worst possible time to mic up Jaren Jackson Jr., who you and I both love, who could potentially be, I think he will be, all NBA. He's definitely going to make all defense. Bill, he was a no-show. He was their best player this season, most consistent player for sure. 4 points and 3 rebounds for him. That can't happen. If you're Jaren Jackson Jr., you have to come out of the gates and be a world beater in that game. And he was anything but.
There's an argument he was their best player this year. Over, even in the games where John Morant played. And he was incredible. I once sat down for a TV interview with Chris Paul, DeAndre Jordan, and Blake Griffin. And that TV interview didn't go well. And Blake Griffin turned off his little microphone without me knowing it halfway through the interview, because Chris Paul was being so Chris Paul-like. And I didn't love it, but having seen that, I'm going to say to Triple J and anyone else in that position, if you're on your way to a 51-point loss and you're mic'd up, pull Blake Griffin. Just be a coward and turn it off. I mean, that's because just why a microphone for his humiliation? The broadcasters should just be like, you know what? We mic'd him up. We're not going to do this to him or to you. We're not going to do the mic'd up segment today.
They got almost nothing out of it. They were like, and we mic'd up Jaren Jackson Jr. They were down like 30 or something at that point. And they go to him and he's just like, come on, we got to play harder. And then that was it. They completely laid out on
the sound of weeping.
Yeah. Last thing on this, Landry Fields got fired. Nico Harrison is under fire. There's been a lot of weird things. The Calvin Booth, the Nuggets end up moving on from him. Zach Kleiman, Bill, if this thing continues to go this way, if they get swept out with a 51-point loss where he fires Taylor Jenkins right before the regular season is over and he ends up going with Tomas Isalo, he's going to put a lot of focus on him. I mean, you and I discussed this on a previous show where he should have just waited till the offseason to make this move, because then at least you have a scapegoat. Now, I think all eyes are on him.
And by the way, you're right. That's the right read politically. And it's also probably the right outcome. I mean, you made a pretty bold, whatever he thought about Taylor Jenkins and their inability to beat winning teams. Taylor Jenkins, pretty good schematically in the playoffs. You want guys who are really good at the tape and the X's and O's, because I think that takes on added importance this time of year. You get humiliated by 51 points. If you don't put up a fight over the next 3 games, Kleiman could be the next GM to go. And maybe he should, John. I mean, since that decision happened, they've been disastrous. Not that they were setting the world on fire before, but it is not, whatever levers he was trying to pull did not work at all.
There's been a lot of speculation in the NBA. We've talked about it just a little bit, about how this could be an offseason of change for the Grizzlies. It already was a regular season of change for them. Who knows what happens with Zach Kleiman? But if he's still empowered to make decisions on their behalf, Could this potentially be, if they crash out of this 4-0 after the wheels came off completely during the regular season, could we see maybe them move on from Ja?
Well, I think we talked about this a few weeks ago on the online betting markets. He became Ja a betting favorite to go somewhere else. I mean, it's really close. I think it was minus 105 that John Morant would be moved before the start of next year. But that's basically a coin flip, but it's not plus 220. I mean, yeah. So the answer to your question, yes. And I know I'm told Orlando would be interested. I mean, Houston is a place that could use. He's not a shooter, but some instant offense and maybe generate a little bit of an offensive engine. So even with his problems, there will absolutely be interest in John Morant. And if they blow that thing up in Memphis, it's certainly possible he could move.
You know, I love the Rockets. They're young and athletic, but I think he'd fit right in. He shoots 31% from three. Just one more guy that they can't rely on to shoot the basketball would be perfect. All right, let's take another break. And then on the other side, we're going to do the Eastern Conference game ones, starting with the Knicks and the Pistons. The Knicks with a massive fourth quarter comeback to steal that one from Detroit. We'll do that on the other side. This is Beyond the Arc on CBS Sports Network. All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. Just a reminder, we're also a podcast. You can find us wherever you get your favorite shows. Please download, subscribe, and leave a review. All right, Bill, to the Eastern Conference game ones. You know what? You and I talked about the series, about how the Knicks should be a little bit afraid of the Pistons. The Pistons came out of it in three quarters. They're playing amazing basketball. I was regretting not picking the Pistons because I'm a coward. And I thought, I should have done it. I should have picked the upset. And then here come the Knicks, Bill, on a 21-0 run in the fourth. And now they're up 1-0. They end up winning this game going away. They win by 11. They're up 1-0 in the series. If you're the Pistons, you have to be kicking yourself. Tobias Harris, who played awesome in the first half, just vanished in the second half, and that offense went with him. And, you know, Cade I thought was fine. He wasn't super efficient, but man, Bill, that one was there for the Pistons.
Well, you know better than anyone, if you can't count on Tobias Harris. Anytime, crunch time. So, look, it sounds like I'm going to take something away from the Knicks here, and it's both. The Knicks certainly staged an amazing comeback, and that 21-0 run was incredible, and they dominated. But really, this was a Detroit team that just turned back into a pumpkin. I mean, they're young and they're inexperienced, John, and we've talked a lot about playoff basketball, and it matters, and it mattered in this game. They were the better basketball team. They were the better team. And then they just utterly and totally abdicated any effort. They got shell-shocked out of nowhere. It was hard to watch. And again, New York played really well, especially offensively, and they hit some big shots, and good for them. But all of a sudden, the Pistons forgot how to play basketball. And nobody wanted to take that shot, and nobody could hit those shots. And they looked, and by the way, this happens. It's just part of the deal. It's part of the process. They're going to be really good in the years ahead. And they're going to take this game in this series if they lose it, and it'll be a learning experience. The big question for me in this series is, can Detroit, really can JB Bickerstaff find a way to show his guys what happened and to have them learn in a couple days, just go out there and hoop? Because if they had just hooped and played with that house money that we've talked about in the fourth quarter, they win that basketball game.
Yeah, that is a learning experience, but that's like small consolation, right? Because, you have to learn as you go through the playoffs. This team hasn't been in the playoffs in a long time. A lot of these players haven't been in the playoffs. Tobias Harris and a couple others are exceptions, but the core of this team has to figure it out as they go. But man, it's right there for them. And some of the things that we were concerned about from the Knicks perspective was that during the regular season, when the Pistons won that series 3-1, the Pistons defense, especially in the second half, was really good. And the Pistons defense, not only did they forget how to shoot, Bill, but all the big dogs ate for the Knicks, especially down the stretch. Jalen Brunson went for 34 and 8. Karl-Anthony Towns, who they targeted early in the pick and roll with Cade, didn't get eaten alive defensively as much as I thought. He goes for a double-double. Also played some interesting defense where he had 4 steals and 2 blocks, and at least was giving effort. OG Anunoby, who was fantastic in the second half of the season, he goes for 23 and 7. Bill, he had 5 steals and 2 blocks. That dude was everywhere, as opposed to the Pistons, who just kind of, I thought like with the Knicks last year, it obviously didn't end up the way that they wanted, but the Knicks were ready for the moment. The moment didn't seem too big to them. For the Pistons, the moment felt way too big. They're in the Garden in game 1 of the playoffs, and like the bright light got put on them, and man, they just completely wilted.
I mean, you look to your left and there's Ben Stiller. You look to your right, there's McEnroe. I mean, it is a who's, and the thing, unlike, I'm gonna take a shot at our hometown now. I love going to Lakers games, but there's a lot of celebrities there who are there to be seen. New York celebrities are there to destroy your soul. So it is a cauldron, and the Pistons really succumb to that. You mentioned this. Can we just give a special shout out to Karl Anthony Towns? Because I think you and I, and most of us pundits out there, are doubters that the Knicks are going to realize anything even remotely close to what preseason expectations were. I don't think they're making a conference finals. I don't think you think they're making a conference finals. They're not getting through Boston. That's down the road. But if we're wrong, and certainly to win in this series, I think Cat's got to be somewhere in the neighborhood of tremendous. There was a stretch where, correctly, you were talking about maybe Cat's an All-NBA first-team player. Maybe he's on an MVP ballot toward the back. There's 5 names on there. And I was always skeptical he could be that guy. He was that guy. He was that guy in that game. He was absolutely awesome. And you noted not just the offense, which he's a genius. He's an offensive specimen.
Yeah.
He's defensively effort, like using his body, even if his defensive footwork isn't the best on earth. It was impressive. And I think for New York, that's one of the really encouraging things. If you can get that level out of him and you can get your defense to be better than it's been over the regular season, maybe the Knicks can prove us all wrong and at least dominate this Pistons series, where most of us wanted to take Detroit, but I also didn't have the courage to do it, and maybe even roll on to the next round, and at a minimum surprised with how competitive they can be.
Yeah, Cat was tremendous offensively. They just need him to be like not a massive negative defensively. If he can just be like average to slightly below, that's a win for them. All right, another game from this weekend in the Eastern Conference, Bill, that I also had. Pacers and Bucks. Pacers win this by 19. Pacers go up 1-0. Your Pacers, I was thinking about you. Now, Bill, the Bucks won the season series 3-1. Damian Lillard is cleared from his blood clot. He's no longer on blood thinners. He didn't play in game 1. He might be back for game 2. At the end of game 1, he was jawing with Tyrese Halliburton. You're going to see blah, blah, blah. Well, the Bucks hope that that's the case, Bill, because outside of Giannis, the entire Bucks team was absolutely horrendous. I came into that game thinking they need to do 3 things. The Bucks need to be good in transition on defense. They were terrible. They need to make some threes. They didn't do that either. And they need to get Giannis some help. And boy, Bill, didn't they do that. 2 of the starters didn't score any points. Taurean Prince, no points in 20 minutes. And then Kyle Kuzma had a line for the ages, Bill. I just have to read this off because it's worth reading. He got benched at the end. Doc was like, I can't see any more of this. He had 22 minutes, no points, no rebounds, no assists, no steals, no blocks. 0 for 5 from the floor, 0 for 2 from 3, 0 for 2 from the line. Bill, I am not a big single game plus minus person. He was minus 24. He earned every part of that.
By the way, when you're watching this game, tell the truth, John, and you were seeing everyone not named Giannis just utterly just play terrible basketball. Did you start to picture Giannis in the Rockets jersey or Spurs? Because that's what it was definitely top of mind for me. So I guess the good news is I don't know how fair it is to expect Damian Lillard whenever he comes back game 2 or game 3 to suddenly ramp up to playoff basketball levels because of blood clots, he obviously hasn't been able to be active and play basketball. And I'm so glad he's okay. You're glad he's okay. Thank God that he's all right. From a basketball perspective, they need him. I mean, you said it. There was, and Kuzma literally no offense from anyone that wasn't Giannis. And to get embarrassed like that against the Pacers, to not even put up a fight, that's the kind of thing that calls into question John Horst, the general manager. I know Doc Rivers has years of money left, but the job Doc Rivers is doing. And again, Giannis, and I know people in Wisconsin get mad at me, but people in Wisconsin should be aware, Giannis, looking around, if you got to the Pacers in 4 or 5 and have these kind of performances, you're risking an era where stars will leave, maybe that becoming a conversation. So it's a lot of pressure to put on Lillard, but they need his offense. I mean, however minutes he can put up, they're going to be critical to the Bucks even have a fighting chance for respectability.
They absolutely need him out there. And even when he comes back, as you mentioned, it's going to take him a second to figure it out. He missed 15 games. There's going to be some rust there. And also they mentioned this on the broadcast. It's not like during those 15 games, he was cleared for cardio. He couldn't do any cardio until very recently. Right. He was just kind of sitting around. Right. So now all of a sudden he's got to get his wind back too. It's not just playing actual basketball. And even if you had top level Dame Lillard, all-star talent from this season where he was playing at a high level, I still don't know that that's enough for the Bucks to get over the hump because look, they decide to move on from Chris Middleton. They roll the dice on Kyle Kuzma. that obviously didn't pay off in game one. And Doc looks around and his adjustments are, oh man, here's 29 minutes of Gary Trent. Here's 27 minutes of Kevin Porter Jr. Here's 27 minutes of AJ Green. Like, look, you and I have been critical of Doc. I don't know that he has many levers to pull here.
Well, I'm not sure he can pull the levers, even if he had many to pull. Can I give a little respect to the Pacers? And it's both, right? The Milwaukee outside of Giannis without Damian Lillard don't have a lot that can hurt you. This is if you go and you look at the Pacers numbers, they look mediocre defensively. They have been a really consistently good defense going all the way back to December. Top 10 defense over that stretch, kind of figured it out. And they did hold Milwaukee, a Milwaukee team that had Giannis, to fewer than 100 points. And so this is just, and I've been on this Pacers train. They're one of the hottest teams of basketball entering the playoffs. And yes, they're again getting a nice draw like they did last year when they made that run to the conference finals, because they're playing a Bucks team with no Lillard. They're playing a Bucks team where Kyle Kuzma, again, just totally forgot how to play basketball. But little love and credit to the Pacers. They played a really good game, and they put it on Milwaukee.
Yeah, 4 of 5 starters in double figures. And I mean, there was a moment there where the Bucks looked like maybe they might climb back in it a little bit. And then the Pacers were like, no, we're going to win this by 19. And it was like a pretty comfortable day for the Pacers. And if you're the Bucks, yeah, it's great. Dame Lillard's coming back, but you're looking across the floor at a Pacers team that is playing good basketball at both ends of the floor. They've really figured it out after starting off slowly. Both Halliburton and the defense started off slowly. And since like All-Star break-ish, both of them have been really good. I think, I'm not sure where you landed on Halliburton being on your All-NBA ballot, but he's in contention for that. And the defense looks good. Okay. Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, the Pacers look good and the Bucks are in trouble. We're going to take a quick break, and then on the other side, we didn't even get to the top 2 seeds in the Eastern Conference, Bill, but the Cavs and the Celtics made short work of their competition. We'll discuss that briefly after a quick break. This is Beyond the Arc on CBS Sports Network. All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. John and Bill wrapping up the show on a Monday. Bill, top 2 seeds in the Eastern Conference. They cruised. Cavs over the Heat by 21, and then the Celtics over the Magic by 17 here. Top line takeaways? I mean, this is kind of what we expected.
Neither of these teams that didn't win have the talent to even compete against these two basketball teams. That's the top line takeaway. Short series. Yeah, I thought so too. Magic did a good job of limiting 3-point attempts for the Celtics, but it still didn't matter. Yes.
I mean, they played good defense, and then also it didn't matter. I wanted to run you a Joe Mazzulla thing here because you and I love Joe Mazzulla. So there was a moment in the fourth quarter where Jason Tatum was down, and it looked like he was hurt. He was laying under the basket, and Joe Mazzulla held the trainer back and screamed at him, "Get up!" Like it was basically like rub some dirt on it and walk it off, and just like a classic Joe Mazzulla moment.
It's much funnier since Tatum is okay, but the more that Mazzulla does his thing, the more I love this guy, John. He's a wackadoodle, and I mean that he's a crazy person, and I love everything about it.
I love everything about him too, including the fact you and I have discussed previously that he's big into the town and watches it all the time. His new movie, Bill, he gave an interview that his new movie will be The Accountant 2, and he plans to watch it every off day.
Did he really?
Yes, I swear that's true. And you know that it's true because how could I possibly make up something that absurd? But he's going to watch it every off day.
Watch it every day.
He knows. The man knows his taste. That's going to do it for us today. We're going to be back at it tomorrow live on YouTube at 12 p.m. Eastern. And we're going to be live on YouTube again tomorrow night following the Thunder and the Grizzlies game 2. Fingers crossed for all of our friends in Memphis that it goes slightly better than it did in game 1. But you can join us on YouTube at Beyond the Arc CBS. But for now, for our NBA insider Bill Reiter, I'm John Gonzalez. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.